Joining us to face off are Democratic strategist Alicia Menendez and Republican strategist Mackowiak. And I want to play for you here, Senators Grassley and Schumer, on how Judge Sotomayor should be judged. Watch.
President Obama's empathy standard appears to encourage judges to make use of their personal politics, feelings, and preferences. This is contrary to what most of us understand to be the role of the judiciary. President Obama clearly believes that you measure up to his empathy standard. That worries me.
Alicia, what about it? Why isn't Grassley correct that empathy really shouldn't be part of the law?
Come on, we've been doing this for a long time. I mean, the definition of empathy we were using was that someone who understands how these decisions affects people's lives. She herself, Judge Sotomayor, said, I understand that the decisions I make affect the lives of real people. That doesn't necessarily mean that she's using empathy to make her decisions, and I think that's an important distinction that has gotten confused in a lot of this discussion.
Matt, it was also an important distinction that Senator Schumer talked about today when he talked about how she puts aside her personal experience. Watch.
I would ask my colleagues to do this. Examine a random sampling of her cases in a variety of areas. In case after case, she rolls up her sleeves, learns the facts, applies the law to the facts, and comes to a decision irrespective of her inclinations or her personal experience.
And Matt, isn't that what a judge is supposed to do?
That is what a judge is supposed to do. I'm not sure it's what she's done, and I don't think it's what she's said. I think you have to take into consideration the things that she said in speeches. She said 8 times over the course of her career that there's this wise Latina comment, that she believes a wise Latina woman with the richness of her experiences would come to a better conclusion than someone who hasn't lived that life. She said that 8 times. So I think today she talked about the fidelity of the law and trying to be a fair jurist, a fair umpire. It's contradicted by the things she said in the past, and so I think that's a significant issue to bring up. The other thing, David, I think to consider is 10 of the cases she's ruled on have been taken up by the Supreme Court. 7 of them have been reversed. She has a 70% reversal rate. 1 case was vacated, and 1 case was strongly criticized for not taking previous rulings into consideration. So I think
they weren't criticizing specifically her. They were criticizing the panel of judges that wrote those opinions.
That's true, but she's part of that panel. But I think, look, a 70% reversal rate by the Supreme Court gives you pause, and it gives you, I think, a reason to question her judicial decisions.
But Matt, my question to you, the same as my question would be to a lot of the Republican senators that we saw today, is when you have someone who has thousands of decisions, why this emphasis on something she said 8 times? I mean, we're judging her ability as a judge. Why not look at her record, her substantive record, rather than this comment that can be interpreted?
Well, sure. I mean, look at the Ricci case. It's a perfect example. The 3-judge panel that she was part of ruled on the side of New Haven, the city of New Haven, against these 17 firefighters that believed that their promotional exam had been, the results of the promotional exam had been unfairly thrown out. So, you know,
but Matt, that's not a perfect example, and you know that. That's actually an example of how she has not been an activist judge. It's a case in which she upheld a legal precedent, which went on to Supreme Court, which it's interesting to note that Justice Souter was actually in the dissenting opinion saying this is the Supreme Court changing the law. So in many ways, Ricci is one of the worst examples we could use of how she's an activist judge, which she is not.
Well, I mean, Alicia, it's just another example. It's one of 7 that have been overturned by the Supreme Court, and I think it shows that the current Supreme Court does not fundamentally view her rulings in a strict constructionist way, and that's why there's been such a reversal. So I think these are significant questions to ask. Look, then the real fireworks are going to start in the next 2 days. There are going to be significant questions about her judicial philosophy, about the Second Amendment. She had one ruling that was overturned where she did not apply the Supreme Court ruling on the D.C. gun ban to a state law in New York. So there are significant judicial questions. I think this fight has more to do with future Supreme Court nomination fights than it does with whether this judge gets confirmed or not. But I think these are important fights for the future of the country.
Matt, you make a great point. People say this is really about the future. Already, Senator Sessions gave her an A for what she said today. With that said, if this is about the future, might the Republicans and conservatives hurt themselves more if they really are too aggressive with her, knowing the record? And again, as Sessions may have voiced some of the same concerns you did, but he gave her an A already. Out the park.
No, you're right, Tamron. I mean, look, no Republican office holder has, I think, crossed the line with Sotomayor from the moment she was nominated. You had a radio talk show host and a former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, who made some comments that were across the line. But outside of that, office holders haven't used language that has been demeaning. They've made the issues be about policy. And I do think, look, she has a sterling academic record. She's been a judge for 18 years. Everyone loves her personal story. It's difficult to see her not being confirmed, but I do think that the real fight is in the future. We may have 2 more openings in President Obama's first term with Justice Stevens and Justice Ginsburg. So the real fights are going to be is the type of justice that's been nominated here, the type of justice that Obama's going to nominate in the future, and is that type of justice outside the mainstream of America? And I think that's a legitimate argument for Republicans to make.
Republican strategist Matt Mackowiak and Democratic strategist Alicia Menendez, thank you both so much. We appreciate it.